The Alfa Romeo Giulia Quadrifoglio. I probably didn't pronounce that right, and that's okay because I'm not Italian. This is an impressive car. I mean, look at it. It's just beautiful. This is the Competizione Red. It is an option, and it's several $1,000s, and I can understand why that's the car Alfa Romeo chose to give to me. So we have to start with the obvious. This is a twin-turbo V6. Most people say that it's basically the twin-turbo V8 out of the Ferrari California, but they just kind of shave off 2 cylinders and I guess recycle them. In any case, it makes over 500 horsepower and a little under 450 pound-feet of torque. It is significant, and it's kind of a pleasure to look at. So there it is. It looks quite impressive. I've looked in here to see if I could figure out where the turbos are and where all of this plumbing goes. And although I'm not the most mechanically inclined individual, it is just a hodgepodge of mess in here, in a good way. Of course, you have the Quadrifoglio badge and the V6 at 90 degrees, just to remind you what you're dealing with. It is quite impressive. A lot of people I know have an Alfa Romeo story. They have an uncle or a dad or a sister or a grandmother or someone who has owned an Alfa Romeo in the past, perhaps 20, 30 years ago when they were slightly popular. And I feel like every single one of them has had some sort of story about how it falls apart, it'll never run, in many ways like Jaguar. But nevertheless, I actually don't have that in my family. No one I know has ever owned an Alfa Romeo. So I came to the Giulia pretty much blank. So what is an Alfa Romeo Giulia like in 2017? Well, it's a lot like a BMW, to be honest. The interior is all BMW, or at least at a glance. It certainly has some Ferrari flair, but a lot of it is BMW. And you know what? If you're going to ape somebody else's interior, that's a pretty solid choice. I don't blame Alfa at all. And it's very comfortable in there.
If you look at it, the HVAC controls are very BMW. The iDrive system is in many ways BMW. The iDrive controller is BMW, except it doesn't have the shortcuts to radio and navigation and things like that, which makes a huge difference. The turn signals are BMW, including coming back to center, just like BMWs do, which I actually really like. But everything gets interesting when you start looking at the Ferrari bits, like the flat-bottom steering wheel, like the start button that's on the steering wheel, and perhaps most importantly, the DNA controller. Here is D, N, and A and your damper settings. You can twist between all 3 of them, and if you push and hold, then race mode starts and you can hear the exhaust kick a little bit. And then you can push up again to go back to dynamic. As you switch, the dash will change. Notice that everything comes off in race mode. Let's do that one more time. And if you look to the left, everything turns off. It just has something to it that I just can't really put my finger on. One of the most obvious ones, of course, is just the unbelievable amounts of speed. God, does this thing ever pull? It pulls so well. It's so ridiculous. But here's the thing with the Giulia Quadrifoglio. It has a fatal flaw, and that fatal flaw is right here. And I think the best way to describe my feelings about it are to turn it over to Jason Camisa of Motor Trend.
Camisa!
What?
Are you kidding me? Review the freaking car!
Fine. I'll review the car. But I will never, ever accept that transmission. Ever.
So what's it like to drive an Alfa Romeo Giulia? Well, pretty freaking nice. It's especially nice when you're in or around a parking garage like I happen to be right now. So let's just go ahead and go down and see how everything sounds. One could make an argument that all I needed to do for this video is just show and play acceleration noises. That's all I needed. It's an interesting car because it doesn't have a proper manual transmission. It has the ZF 8-speed, which I've heard numerous times is really great, and as it turns out, it really isn't bad. The paddles are mounted on the column rather than the steering wheel, which everyone seems to think is better, although I have so little experience with it I couldn't tell you one way or the other. And the shifts are quick, they're strong. Depending on which DNA mode you're in, they can be really aggressive, and in a way that I quite like, because it feels almost like a DCT or perhaps some other manual transmission car. But man, when you step on the gas in this car, it moves. When you're in the right part of the rev range, which seems to be between 3,000 and 5,000 RPM, it is loud, even in the cabin. And that's outside of race mode. Race mode makes it even louder still, which I kind of like. And I would probably do more often, but I don't want to lose out on all the traction and stability control I get, because race mode turns it off no matter what. So here's race mode. Oh! Golly. I got all sorts of sideways. Plenty of wheel hop, and that's to be expected when traction control is off. If there was any wish I had for this car other than a manual transmission, I think the wish I would have the most is that I could leave the traction control on when race mode is on. This isn't my car. I have it for a week. It's borrowed and it's very expensive. And so I don't have the confidence to drive in race mode really ever. But if I had race mode with the race exhaust and all of that benefit, but without paying the penalty of no traction control, that would be tremendous. So here's a nice curvy section of road. Oh God, it just pulls so much. And it feels so planted. Unfortunately, traffic and the speed limit is preventing me from doing anything truly stupid. But nevertheless, it just feels so planted and so fast. And maybe that's one of the best perks of this car, is that every single time you get in it, it feels new and exciting. Would I feel that way after 6 months or a year? Who knows? But, I mean, that sound, that would make me pretty excited for a very, very long time.
Late in my week with the Giulia, I took it about 45 minutes away from my house and put it on a lift to see what it looked like underneath. During that trip, it occurred to me that I actually don't particularly care for how loud it is when you're going on a long trip. In every other way, it was a great GT car. It was a great Grand Tourer. It just sucked up the miles and spewed them out the back, and it was comfortable and nice, but I found myself actually reaching for advanced efficiency mode, not because I'm frugal, but because I just didn't want to hear the car for 45 straight minutes.
So the advantage of knowing someone that has a lift is that you can come in and use it, and I was really excited to see what the Alfa Romeo Giulia looks like under a lift, but it's actually not that interesting. There's so much cladding and airflow things, so it's really not that exciting all in all. One of the interesting things that I noticed is that these little vents here seem to be right around where the differential is, so I'm pretty sure that these three are for cooling the differential. Of course, the exhaust is going right around either side of it, so I'm not sure how much it really helps, but it's a great idea either way.
So while I'm on my way home from the lift, let's cover some quick hits. First of all, my kid's car seat was actually really, really easy to install. I was stunned how little time it took. Furthermore, he actually really liked the car.
Should we go fast?
No.
No? You don't like going fast?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, was that fun?
This is fast car.
It sure is, bud.
That being said, not everyone in my family was completely sold.
Some of us really, really didn't like the combination of dynamic mode and manual mode.
Okay, let's... Whiplash, here we come again.
So there's some other neat features inside this car that are worth noting. If you're in manual mode, as I am right now, and if you hit the park button, watch what happens to the stick. It just shimmies itself right back, which is a very nice touch. Despite all the good that the Giulia brings to the table, most especially that motor and that exhaust, there are some problems. Take a look at the key fob from my E90 BMW, and here's one from an F30 BMW. And now look at the one from the Alfa Romeo. It may be a little hard to see here, but it is enormous. It felt like a brick in my pocket, which was really frustrating. Furthermore, the infotainment system is okay. It had a lot of just weird quirks that were really frustrating. The best example is, if I wanted to listen to audio coming out of my phone, I had to reconnect it by hand every time. It was only one button press, but gosh, was it annoying. And finally, the lock and unlock noise was just grating. I don't know if it comes across on this video how loud that is, but it is really loud in a pitch that I don't care for. And to unlock, I just don't like it.
There's so much that can be said about this car, and I've had it for a few days, and so I've had some time to think about it. I've had some time to really experience it, to really live it. I've driven it to work, I've driven it to preschool for my 3-year-old, and I've gotten to feel for what this car is like, and I have to say it's extraordinarily impressive. Everything about it feels great. There are some Italian quirks for sure, but in the grand scheme of things, I absolutely understand why this is an $80,000 car. And money no object, I'd probably pay it. I mean, it's basically a Ferrari sedan. How much cooler can you be? It's all of the great parts of a Ferrari, but at considerably less cost. Plus, the interior is so BMW that it's really a win-win, especially as a BMW driver like myself. It's a great car, and one that I wish I could afford. You know, the funny thing is I've spent my entire adult life priding myself on my choice to drive manual transmission. I believe in the Save the Manuals campaign. I've only ever owned manual transmission cars for the 20 or so years I've been driving. And I feel like that's part of my identity, both my public persona, if you'll permit me to say so, but also who I identify as internally to myself. That's just something I've always been proud of, and it's been a part of me. And with the Alfa Romeo Giulia Quadrifoglio, it makes me question everything. It makes me question whether an Italian company can make a great sports sedan, whether Chrysler can make a great sports sedan. It makes me question whether or not I really need a manual transmission, because that ZF 8-speed is so, so good. It makes me question, really, who I am. And that's a lot to come out of one car. Thanks for watching.